The night air was heavy with mist as Daniel stumbled across the alien courtyard, his hands tied with glowing chains. Strange armored guards pushed him forward, their faces hidden behind silver masks. He had been taken far from his camp, dragged through dark forests, and now he stood before tall gates carved with faces that seemed alive. The gates opened with a sound like grinding bones, and the guards shoved him inside. The palace was unlike anything he had seen. Towers stretched into the clouds, glowing faintly as if pulsing with blood. Shadows moved across the walls, though no one walked there. The guards forced Daniel down a long corridor, torches burning with green flames on either side. At the end of the hall, a pair of massive doors stood. They swung open without anyone touching them. Inside, on a throne of black stone, sat the Countess. She was beautiful, too beautiful to be real. Her skin shimmered like moonlight, and her long hair flowed as if underwater. But her eyes betrayed her. They were sharp, desperate, and hungry. She raised one hand and the guards stopped. Her voice was smooth but cold. "Leave him," she commanded. The guards bowed, stepped back, and the doors slammed shut behind them. Daniel stood frozen, his chest rising and falling with fear. The Countess studied him for a long moment, her lips curling in something between a smile and a threat. "A human," she whispered. "It has been centuries since one of your kind walked into my halls." She rose slowly from her throne, her dress glittering with threads of silver. Each step echoed through the empty chamber. Daniel swallowed hard. "Why bring me here?" he asked, his voice rough. The Countess stopped before him, so close he could see the faint cracks beneath her glowing skin, as if something beneath was struggling to break free. She touched his face with fingers that felt too cold to belong to the living. "Because you are not like the others," she said. "When you entered my land, I felt it. Time itself slowed for me. The hunger inside me went quiet." Her words made little sense, yet the fear in Daniel's chest deepened. He tried to step back, but the chains bound his legs. She circled him like a predator. "For years, I searched," she continued, her voice low and sharp. "Potions, machines, sacrifices, nothing stopped the decay. I remained trapped, watching youth slip away, but when you came..." She leaned close, whispering near his ear. "My veins burned with life again." Daniel clenched his fists. "What do you want from me?" Her smile widened. "Eternal youth," she said simply, "and you will give it to me." The chamber seemed to grow colder. The torches flickered, throwing shadows across the walls. Daniel's heartbeat thundered in his ears. "I can't give you that," he said firmly. "You already have," she replied. She lifted his wrist, pressing her hand to his skin. For a moment her face glowed brighter, her cracked skin smoothing. A sigh escaped her lips, almost like relief. "Do you feel it? Your blood, your very being, heals me. No one else can do this, only humans." Daniel yanked his arm back. "You're insane." Her eyes flashed, and the air itself seemed to press down on him. "Careful, human," she said softly. "I can break you with a thought." She stepped back and waved her hand. The chains on his arms and legs fell away, turning to dust. "But I will not. Not yet. Not. I need you. And you will need me if you want to survive in this world." Daniel rubbed his wrists, his fear mixing with anger. He looked around for a weapon, but the chamber was bare. Only her throne, the torches, and the endless shadows remained. The Countess returned to her throne, her voice echoing across the stone walls. "Stay by my side, and I will give you everything. Gold, power, a place above kings. Refuse." She tilted her head, her smile turning cruel. "And I will still have what I want, but your suffering will last until your bones beg for death." Silence stretched between them, broken only by the hiss of the torches. Daniel's thoughts raced. He had been captured, stripped of his weapons, thrown into a palace of monsters, and now this woman wanted something impossible. Yet he could see the truth in her words. The moment she touched him, her skin had healed. The hunger in her eyes was real, not madness. He forced himself to stand tall. "If you think I'll just give myself to you, you're wrong," he said, his voice steady. The Countess leaned forward, her smile cold. "We shall see, human. We shall see." The chamber doors slammed open again, though no hand touched them. A gust of freezing wind swept through. The guards returned, bowing low. The Countess waved them away. "Take him to the lower halls. Keep him alive. He is mine." The guards seized Daniel's arms, dragging him back into the endless corridors. As the doors closed, Daniel caught one last look at the Countess. Her beauty shimmered in the torchlight, but her eyes glowed with something darker than desire. She watched him like a starving wolf waiting for her meal. Daniel was thrown into a chamber deep beneath the palace, its walls damp with moss and glowing fungi. Chains rattled as the guards locked the heavy door behind him. The air was thick and smelled of old stone and hidden rot. He pressed his ear against the walls and heard muffled voices, servants whispering above, afraid to speak loudly in a place where shadows seemed alive. Narrow cracks in the walls revealed strange carvings. Figures of humans and aliens stood side by side, etched with marks that looked like warnings. Daniel traced the carvings with his fingers and felt something pulse beneath the stone, like a heartbeat. He stepped back, unsettled, realizing this palace was more than just a fortress. It was built on something ancient, something buried. Hours passed before a faint scraping sound came from the far corner. A small door opened, and a servant girl crept inside, carrying a tray of food. Her eyes darted around in fear, as though unseen hands were watching her every move. She set the tray down and whispered quickly, "Do not eat too much. She will test your strength. If you are weak, she will drain you dry." Daniel's stomach tightened. He grabbed her wrist gently. "Who is she really?" he asked. The servant's eyes filled with panic. She pulled free and shook her head. "She was once a ruler of light, but the hunger changed her. No one leaves this palace alive." She ran back through the hidden door, vanishing into darkness. Daniel sat in silence, the Countess's words replaying in his mind. Eternal youth, his blood giving her strength. He thought of the way her skin had healed at his touch, and fear settled deeper in his chest. But another feeling crept in, anger. He would not be her prisoner forever. Above his head, footsteps echoed. Voices of nobles carried through the stone. They argued, their words sharp and filled with suspicion. "She hides something," one hissed. "She grows young again. Too young. What sorcery does she use?" Another replied, "If she breaks the sacred laws, we will tear her throne from under her." Daniel listened closely. The Countess's enemies were not far. If they discovered him, they might kill him before she could use him. Yet maybe their rebellion was his chance to escape. Later that night, the door creaked open again. This time it was not a servant, but the Countess herself. Her face gleamed with new youth, smooth and perfect, though her eyes looked more hollow than before. She stepped into the chamber, her gown trailing like mist. "Do you feel it?" she asked softly, touching her chest. "My body remembers what it means to be alive. Every moment near you strengthens me. Already the decay retreats. Soon the nobles will bow again." Daniel glared at her. "You're feeding on me." Her smile curved, sharp and cruel. "Not feeding. Surviving. You should feel honored. Without you, my people will fall into war. With you, I will rule forever." He stepped back, fists clenched. "What happens when I'm no longer strong enough?" Her eyes flashed, the smile vanishing. For a moment her mask slipped, and he saw the truth beneath, the cracks in her skin, the hunger trembling at the edges of her beauty. She caught herself and laughed softly. "You underestimate your own kind. Humans are stubborn, hard to break. That is why you will endure. That is why you were brought here." Daniel's mind raced. He had no weapon, no allies, yet he knew the truth now. The Countess's secret could not remain hidden forever. The nobles were already whispering. Sooner or later, they would act, and when they did, the palace would burn, and either he would escape, or he would die in the ruins with her. The Countess leaned close, her cold breath brushing his cheek. "Do not fight me, Daniel. If you give me what I want, you will live like a king. If you resist—" She touched his chest lightly, and pain shot through his body like fire. He staggered back, gasping for air. Her eyes glowed brighter as she whispered, "You will learn that death is kinder than my anger." She turned and drifted from the chamber, the heavy door closing with a final thud. Daniel sank to the floor, sweat on his skin, the echoes of her power still burning in his veins. He stared into the dark, his mind clear with one truth. If he stayed, she would consume him piece by piece until nothing of him remained. The palace halls trembled with murmurs as Daniel was marched through them under heavy guard. He could feel eyes watching him from behind curtains, whispers slipping like daggers through the air. Servants stopped to stare before quickly lowering their heads, as if even a glance at him might cost them their lives. He knew now that he was no simple prisoner. He was the Countess's secret, and secrets in a place like this were never safe for long. At night, when the torches burned low and shadows stretched across the walls, he was summoned again to her chamber. The Countess stood by a tall mirror framed in black iron, her reflection trembling as though the glass itself feared her. Her beauty was brighter, sharper, but her voice cracked with strain. "You are the key," she said, her hand pressed against the mirror. "Every moment you remain near me, I hold youth in my grasp. But the nobles grow restless. They question my strength. They must never know the truth." Daniel's fists tightened. "Why should I care what happens to your throne?" Her gaze snapped toward him, cold and sharp. "Because if they learn of you, they will kill us both. You are my gift and my curse. Only I will decide your fate." The words burned in him. He wanted to strike her, to run, but he forced himself still. Then, with quiet boldness, he said, "If I'm to be your prisoner, then I want something in return." The Countess arched an eyebrow, amused at his defiance. "What could a human demand from me?" Daniel's voice hardened. "The slaves in your lower halls, the ones you keep chained, free them." For the first time, the Countess hesitated. Her lips parted, but no words came. Then she laughed, low and dangerous. "You bargain with me? Bold, very bold. Perhaps it is your stubbornness that makes you strong enough for me. Perhaps that is why your kind burns brighter than any other." She leaned closer, her whisper curling like smoke. "Very well, I will grant your request, but do not mistake mercy for weakness." Daniel did not trust her promise. The cruelty in her eyes had not changed. Still, if even one life could be freed, perhaps it was worth the risk. That night, he lay awake on the stone floor of his chamber, but sleep would not come. He heard footsteps outside, voices whispering in languages he didn't know. Through the cracks in the wall, he saw flickers of movement, nobles pacing, guards exchanging nervous glances. Something was building in the palace, something dangerous. Then came the sound of steel scraping stone. A shadow slipped into his cell, cloaked and hooded. The figure whispered urgently, "Human, listen, she is losing control. Each time she takes from you, her mind fractures. She will not stop until nothing is left. If you want to live, you must escape before the nobles rise against her." Daniel's heart pounded. "Who are you?" he whispered back. The figure pulled back the hood just enough to reveal pale eyes glowing faintly in the dark. "A servant who has seen too many die in her hunger. I cannot save you, but I can warn you. Choose wisely. When the palace breaks, you must decide, her or your own freedom." Before Daniel could reply, the figure vanished into the shadows as silently as they had appeared. He was left staring at the darkness, his mind turning with fear and resolve. The Countess needed him, but others wanted him dead. The palace was a nest of knives, and he was caught in the center. When dawn came, horns echoed across the towers. The Countess summoned him once more, her gown brighter, her face flawless, her beauty glowing like fire. But her hands trembled as she gripped the arm of her throne. She forced a smile, but Daniel could see the cracks spreading beneath the surface. "You see," she said, her voice rich but unsteady. "With you beside me, I will never fall. The nobles whisper of rebellion, but they are fools. Together, we will rule eternal." Daniel stared at her, his jaw tight. He knew her power came from him, but her throne stood on lies and chains. And somewhere in the dark corridors, knives were already sharpening for the day those lies collapsed. The machines hummed with an eerie rhythm, their glowing tubes pulsing as if alive. Daniel stood in the center of a circle etched into the stone floor, strange symbols burning faintly beneath his feet. The Countess circled him slowly, her hands raised, her face lit by the glow of forbidden devices crafted from both alien crystal and rusted human metal. He could feel energy pulling from his body, draining him, leaving his veins cold. She whispered words in a language older than the palace itself, her voice echoing in the chamber. The symbols flared, and Daniel gasped as pain surged through him. His blood seemed to rise toward the machines, flowing without vanishing into the tubes where it was turned into glowing liquid. The Countess drank the light through a vessel, her body shuddering with renewed life. Her skin smoothed, her eyes brightened, and for a moment she looked no older than a girl. She staggered, clutching the edge of her throne as laughter spilled from her lips. "It works," she breathed. "Do you see, Daniel? The decay flees from me. I am whole again." Daniel's chest heaved, his knees buckling. But in the haze of pain, something strange touched his mind. Visions flickered. Cities of Earth burning, ancient ships lost in black voids, faces of humans long dead. Their voices called to him, layered and countless, whispering warnings he could not understand. He collapsed, clutching his head as the visions bled away, leaving his mind raw. The Countess noticed his trembling. She rushed to him, but not with pity. Her hands shook with greed. Yes, yes, there is more in you than flesh. Your kind carries something deeper, memory, soul, strength. I will take it all, and with it I will ascend beyond this world. Daniel forced himself to rise, sweat dripping down his face. You're tearing yourself apart, he muttered. This isn't making you stronger. It's breaking you. Her laugh cracked, almost manic. Breaking me? No, human. I am becoming more than mortal. I am becoming eternal. Eternal. But Daniel could see the truth in her eyes. Even as her beauty glowed brighter, something in her gaze was fading. Her pupils shook, her smile twitched too wide. She touched her face, and for an instant her skin rippled, not smooth, but shifting, as though something monstrous pushed beneath. The door slammed open. A guard fell to his knees, his mask clattering across the floor. My Countess, the nobles gather at the gates. They say you have betrayed the laws. They demand you face judgment. The Countess's face darkened, her glow flickering like a dying star. She rose to her full height, voice thundering. Fools! They will kneel before me or drown in their own blood. She turned back to Daniel, her hands trembling with both fury and desire. You will remain at my side. With you, I cannot be defeated. Daniel's body shook from the ritual, but his mind was sharp. He had seen the cracks in her mask, felt the madness stirring in her veins. He knew now she would never stop. She would use him until nothing of him remained, and then she would burn the world around her to keep her throne. As the guards rushed to prepare for battle, Daniel stood in silence, his heart heavy with a single truth. He was no longer just her prisoner. He was the weapon she needed, the anchor to her stolen youth. And if he did nothing, her hunger would consume them all. The palace shook with the roar of battle outside. The crash of metal and the cries of rebels echoed through the stone halls as smoke drifted in through shattered windows. Daniel was dragged to the upper chamber, his arms bound once again. Guards hurried past, their armor dented and splattered with blood. The Countess stood at the center of the throne room, her gown torn, her eyes glowing brighter than ever, though her hands trembled with every movement. From beyond the tall doors came the furious chant of nobles and soldiers. She feeds on forbidden power. She must fall. Their voices grew louder, fueled by hatred and fear. Daniel could feel the tension in the air, the crack of rebellion that had finally come. The Countess turned to him with desperate fury. They come for me, but they will not take you. You are mine. You are the source of my eternity. She reached out, her fingers brushing his arm, and her beauty sharpened once more, but her eyes flickered with madness. The doors burst open, and a wave of rebels surged inside. Servants, guards who had betrayed her, nobles wielding swords, they all came together with one goal. The Countess raised her hand, and a blast of raw energy flung half of them against the walls. The rest pressed forward, blades flashing. Daniel was shoved to the ground as the throne room erupted into chaos. The Countess moved like fire, her laughter shrill as she struck down one foe after another. Her body glowed, but the glow wavered, and Daniel could see how much the ritual had broken her. With every strike, cracks rippled across her skin, her youth fighting against the truth of time. One rebel caught sight of Daniel and shouted, "There! The human! He is her secret!" Swords turned toward him. Daniel's breath froze. He was no longer invisible in this war. The Countess whirled, her voice a scream. "See, touch him and you will die screaming!" Energy ripped from her hand, searing the stone floor, but her enemies only pressed harder, knowing her weakness now stood in plain sight. Daniel scrambled to his feet, his mind racing. The Countess wanted him close, but the rebels wanted him dead. Smoke filled his lungs. The clash of steel deafened his ears. The palace walls shook as fire spread across tapestries and shattered glass rained from above. Through the chaos, he saw faces. The slaves he had demanded be freed, their chains broken in the lower halls. They fought now against their former masters, caught between the Countess's wrath and the rebels' vengeance. Their eyes met his for an instant, filled with silent pleading. The Countess grabbed Daniel's wrist and pulled him to her side, her voice wild. "Do you see? Even in revolt, they cannot touch me. With you, I am eternal." But Daniel's heart pounded with dread. He saw the truth. The rebellion was not just against her, it was against the hunger she had become, the endless cycle she represented. And now he stood in the middle of it, the one piece that could tip the balance. As the chamber burned, as rebels screamed and the Countess raged, Daniel realized that neither side cared if he lived or died. To her, he was fuel. To them, he was a curse. His only chance of survival would come from choosing a side or finding a way to break free from both. The throne room was a storm of fire and screams. Daniel tore his wrist free from the Countess's grip, his skin burning where she had touched him. She whirled on him, her face still glowing with stolen youth, but her eyes were broken, wide with desperation. Around them, rebels pushed through the flames, cutting down her loyal guards. The slaves she'd kept hidden now fought with bare hands and broken chains, their rage stronger than any blade. The Countess raised her hand and unleashed a surge of energy that ripped across the hall, sending bodies crashing into stone. Her voice shook as she shouted, "You belong to me, Daniel. You are the only reason I still stand." Daniel's chest tightened as he faced her. "I don't belong to you. You're feeding on me, and you'll never stop." For a moment, her expression cracked, not with anger, but with fear. "Without you, I will wither. Without you, I will be nothing. Stay with me, and I will make you a king. You will never die." Her words trembled, not as command, but as a plea. The rebels broke through the fire, their leader shouting, "Kill them both! Burn out the curse before it spreads!" Dozens of blades turned toward Daniel. He staggered back, caught between two worlds. Her desperate grasp and their blood-soaked fury. The Countess stepped in front of him, shielding him from the swords. For the first time, she wasn't attacking, but protecting. Her voice cracked, soft enough only he could hear. "Choose me, Daniel. Choose eternity, or let them take you and die a wasted life." The chamber shook as more fire rained from the ceilings. Daniel's heartbeat thundered in his ears. Around him lay the broken and the burning. The Countess trembled with hunger and fear, holding him as if he was her last anchor in the world. The rebels closed in, their blades raised. Daniel knew the decision was his alone. The choice hung in the air like a blade above his neck. Stand with her and become her eternal prisoner, or defy her and risk death at the hands of those who wanted him gone. The flames climbed higher, devouring banners and cracking stone. The rebels closed in, their swords gleaming through the smoke. Daniel stood at the center, his body trembling from exhaustion, yet his mind clearer than ever. The Countess clung to his arm, her skin glowing with stolen youth, her face shifting between beauty and ruin, as if time itself fought to reclaim her. "Stay with me," she whispered, her voice breaking. "Together, we can outlast them all. I can give you eternity." Her eyes begged, her hands shaking not with power but with fear of losing him. Daniel looked at her and saw the truth. She was no queen, no goddess, only a woman terrified of the end. Her throne was built on chains, her beauty stolen, her eternity nothing but a prison. He pulled his arm free, his voice steady despite the chaos. "I don't want eternity. I want to be free." Her face shattered with despair. "If you leave me, I will crumble." "Then crumble," he said. The Countess screamed, her glow surging too bright, too wild. Cracks tore across her skin as the energy she had stolen fought to consume her. The rebels leapt back, shielding themselves as light exploded from her body. The throne split in two, stone raining across the hall. Daniel staggered but stood his ground, watching as her beauty melted into dust, her figure collapsing under the weight of her own hunger. The glow faded. Where she had stood, only ashes remained, drifting like gray snow across the burning chamber. Silence fell, broken only by the crackle of fire. The rebels lowered their blades, their fury cooled by the sight of her ruin. They looked at Daniel with unease, as though he were both victim and curse. He walked past them without a word, through the smoke and broken doors, his steps steady. Behind him, the palace crumbled, the Countess's name lost to fire and ash. He did not carry her eternity. He carried only his own fragile and mortal life, and that was enough.